Niquay, bonjour, hello. I also want to acknowledge that we're on traditional Algonquin and Anishinaabe land, and that we should be respecting their laws and protocols while we gather here. J'aimerais présenter nos panélistes aujourd'hui. J'ai le plaisir de présenter professeur Amy Salyzyn, qui est experte en éthique juridique et qui travaille depuis nombreuses années sur la question de la cyberjustice et plus récemment les risques et les possibilités liées à l'utilisation des applications mobiles dans la mobilisation de l'accès à la justice. Dr. and Professor Salyzyn will discuss her research on the regulatory landscape in which legal apps are embedded. La professeure Pavlovic est innovatrice en matière d'éducation juridique et en matière de recherche sur la protection et les droits des consommateurs. La professeure Pavlovic a récemment intervenu à la Cour suprême 2 fois dans 2 décisions. Her 2 groundbreaking decisions in which her research was cited and relied upon by the bench. She's with Selena Gomez. Oh my God, no. I love it. Is that the first time? No, you're like, it happens all the time.
It's happened before, so don't worry. Yeah, it's good.
Selena Lucien I don't know. Selena Gomez, Selena Lucien.
Superstar, though.
But exactly, same. It's easy to mix them up, obviously. She's also working with Professor Pavlovic on their groundbreaking research. She's also the founder of Small Claims Wizards, as most of you know. Elle collabore de façon intègre avec la professeure Pavlovic pour explorer comment l'intelligence artificielle peut faciliter l'accès à la justice. They'll be discussing issues around consumers' knowledge or lack thereof of their rights, and whether AI can facilitate consumer empowerment. Et finalement, à la toute fin, j'ai la professeure Karine Gentelet, qui est professeure à l'UQO, qui travaille depuis nombreuses années sur la mobilisation des connaissances et de l'éthique sur la recherche pour, par et avec les communautés autochtones. Nous sommes choyés d'avoir avec elle ses collaboratrices, Madame Thérèse Ottawa, qui est mère, grand-mère et native de Manawa, qui travaille pour la protection et la promotion de la langue atikamekw, et Madame Cécile Niquay-Ottawa, qui est maman, grand-maman et grande-grande-maman. Elle dit qu'elle est à la retraite, mais je trouve ça un peu difficile à croire, car de toute évidence, elle est militante pour les droits linguistiques. Nous sommes choyés de vous avoir, et ces collaboratrices vont nous parler de leur initiative tant inspirante qu'innovante. They ask, can Wikimedia be deployed to revitalize the Atikamekw language? So, Miigwech, thank you for being here, et I pass the baton to my colleague. Merci.
Great. So thanks so much for having me here today to the Ottawa Law Review and the Center for Law, Tech and Society, and also the co-chairs of the program, Professor Kirkup and Professor Martin Barreto. It's been a great day so far, and just seeing what's going to come, it's going to be even better. So today I'm going to talk about some work I've done with a team at the University of Ottawa that actually included Professor Buclan as well and Professor McGill that looked at legal apps and access to justice. So this research project that was supported by SSHRC was really asking 2 main questions. What legal apps are out there, and also what do we know about these apps? Our focus was on Canada. We also looked at the United States as a comparison. And we also looked at mobile and web-based apps. So we wanted to be fairly inclusive. And you'll see, these questions are fairly simple, but when we started hearing about legal apps there, we realized that we really didn't have a good sense about what was happening across Canada, no foundational knowledge, no kind of canvassing of what was out there. And so we wanted to really provide a strong basis for doing further research. And so we finished this project. We got some answers to these questions. What legal apps are out there? Just looking at Canada, we actually found lots of what we consider to be lots, roughly 60 Canadian apps. And of course, in this world of technology, this number's changing all the time, but staying around that number we saw consistently for a year or so. What do we know about these apps? Well, we actually realized we know basically nothing about these apps. What do I mean about that? We don't know who is using these apps, how people are using them. Are they actually improving outcomes? If we're talking about access to justice, everybody's hyping up these apps. What are they actually doing about outcomes? Are they bringing any harms with them as well? And that's particularly of concern when we think about the public using these. Some further insights we got, if we look at these apps just merely by numbers, we did see that a majority of these apps are developed by private developers. And in Canada, it's a little bit different than the United States. We actually see a lot of very small teams, a lot of individuals developing these apps. And also compared to the United States, relatively speaking, fewer number of public developers, so that's changing slowly. We see Legal Aid Ontario and a lot of the public legal information societies coming into this field right now. Another thing to note is in this world, one major player has really been the law schools, and that's started a little bit in the United States, but now coming to Canada. We've seen things happening out west at Thompson Rivers University, and indeed even at our law school, Professor Pavlovic is leading some interesting work in this area, and as well Professor Hallisher in his legal data class is doing a lot of good work. Another insight we had is that if you look at what's out there, we have diverse target users and also diverse functions. So we have a fair amount of diversity in what these apps actually do. If you look at apps targeting lawyers, probably not surprising, but these apps are really looking at making lawyers' jobs more efficient. So a lot of things actually not necessarily disrupting, but just making what lawyers are doing now more efficient, like, can you bill better? Can you manage your documents better? But also actually seeing some exciting things in the world of machine learning. And I think we'll hear a bit later this afternoon from one of the founders of Blue Jay Legal. And so new tools being developed help people answer legal questions a lot faster, a lot more efficiently. Also emerging area is legal analytics, which some of you may have heard about. So allowing people to essentially make predictions about case outcomes and litigations, a major thing that legal analytics is used for. I think you probably can't see the slide that well, but big business in the United States, we see some players in Canada, for example, Loom Analytics, trying to allow people to develop some insights about what courts might do with their cases. So, you can look at your chance of winning a summary judgment motion at Ontario Superior's Court and how your chances change depending on what judge you have. This slide, which you probably can't read if you're not too close, lets people know how long judges take to make decisions. So another tool being developed for essentially litigators that want to use it. At the public, of greater interest if we're talking about access to justice is those apps that the public is meant to interface with. And so again, we have some apps that don't really do anything quote unquote disruptive. They just try and make people accessing conventional services a bit easier. So a big business, a big field, particularly in the United States and also in Canada, is kind of matchmaking apps. So how do people get lawyers? Various apps trying to help connect people with lawyers. But we also see more and more some apps that are trying to either help people use lawyers less, so kind of make things a bit cheaper, or also bypass lawyers. And I'll be able to give some examples in a minute about that. And the last thing in this slide, just noticing you'll see other. So we do see some apps that aren't really meant for lawyers or the general public but maybe are meant for professionals. So apps that potentially social workers can use if they're going into a residence of someone who's housebound to help them know about their legal rights. In the Canadian iTunes App Store, there's also some apps that are developed privately that are purportedly for police officers to use to understand what sentences and charges they can lay. One might query some risks, related to that as well. But why don't I provide a bit more of examples? And I don't have the apps names here, but if you want to look at, either talk to me or look at our paper, you can find a guide to what their particular names are. So talking about legal or administrative information, so for example, there's apps that can tell you where you can fly your drone. So something you'll have an app, you'll pull it up on your phone, it'll have a map and say this is a no-fly zone, this is a fly zone, according to federal regulations. There's some apps being developed that can help answer particular legal questions. So, if you're fired from your job, how much severance might you be owed? If you owe child support, how much might you owe? And these apps work by if you essentially input and answer a few questions, they'll try and give you an answer or a particular range of answers based on the case law or based on the legislation. I think as I mentioned before, Legal Aid Ontario is interested in developing apps, so they have an app that can help you determine if you're eligible for legal aid. So you can see how some of these apps may help the public be easier to answer some legal questions. There's also apps that do document and form creation. And so, for example, we heard about Small Claims Wizard, and we have the founder on our panel today, but helping you prepare court forms for small claims courts. There's also, and this is a big business in the United States and starting to come to Canada, helping you apply for a pardon. So you have a criminal record and you want to get that expunged. How do you do that? You can certainly retain a lawyer, but is there a way you can use technology to do that faster and cheaper? Will preparing apps are also something that we're seeing multiple spring up in Canada, either helping you prepare the will by yourself or streamlining it so you have the information you could bring to a lawyer in a much more packaged form. Some of the most interesting apps, I think, are the apps that are kind of in the self-help range or help you, I guess, essentially collect evidence. So multiple apps that help record encounters with police, for example. So in the United States, the American Civil Liberties Union in most states now have apps developed where people can upload in real time to Dropbox other encounters with the police or send that to emergency contacts. And indeed, we have a Canadian version of that developed called Legal Swipe by an alumnus of our institution, Christian Levian. So exciting app that we see in Canada. An American app that I think is particularly interesting is one that helps people measure temperature levels in rental units, because that can be a big issue in cities when landlords aren't keeping the temperature up. And I have two videos here that they're both the American versions of these apps, but I think it just give you a sense of how these apps operate. So maybe we can cue up the first one first, which is basically the American version of Legal Swipe. You can make it full screen maybe if you want.
Keep it so I can see him! Stop recording! No, take recording! Stop move! I said stop recording! Take recording! I said stop!
Yeah, so right now the ACLU has these mobile justice apps in a large number of states right now. The idea is to help citizens be able to either record their encounters with police, also inform them of their rights. The second app, the link there is called HeatSeek, and it's an app that's available in New York City, and the video that we'll queue up will give you a sense about how that works, which I think is quite interesting, creative use.
No one had heat. My daughter gets sick often. Every winter, she's 2 years old, and I had to leave the oven on sometimes.
Were you able to bring that up again?
No one had heat. My daughter gets sick often. Every winter, she's 2 years old, and I had to leave the oven on sometimes to warm up the place. We've been fighting for heat for a really long time.
During heating season, landlords are obligated to keep the temperature at a certain level, and the level depends on the temperature outside.
Every winter, there are more than 200,000 complaints about lack of heat. If the problem is ongoing, tenants are told to record the temperature by hand. The process is long and bureaucratic, and in the meantime, tenants are freezing in their bedrooms.
It would be wonderful if there could be something like a sensor or some technology employed in order to catch the temperature when it's actually a problem.
This little box is a HeatSeek sensor. It's a thermometer connected to the internet. It takes a reading every hour and sends the data back to a server so tenants and public advocates can check how cold it is anytime they want. It also generates heat logs that look just like the ones the city asks people to fill out by hand, only far more accurate than any judge has ever seen. This is the HeatSeek team. We're technologists, designers, and advocates. We're also New Yorkers. We want to reform the way heating regulations are enforced by distributing HeatSeek sensors in buildings across the city in time for winter.
It's not easy. It really isn't easy living in a place where it's supposed to keep you safe, supposed to keep you warm, and we're not getting that. We shouldn't have to feel like we're living on the streets inside of our apartments.
So I think, HeatSeek is an example of just what people can do with some creativity. It's not necessarily, or I don't think it's replacing what lawyers do. You don't have lawyers going into someone's apartment recording these temperatures, but you can see how for those individuals who are having that problem, this is an effective way for them to be able to record what's going on, provide evidence of that, much more if they were doing it without the technology. And indeed, HeatSeek's also trying to harness, big data, if you've heard that word, to try and see, what are the patterns across New York City? Are we seeing similar landlords, people that own multiple buildings, having the same problems with heat, and being proactive with those landlords? So just, I think, an interesting example of a more kind of creative or less conventional type of app. And a lot of these categories overlap. So I think the apps I just talked about might be called self-help, but I have some other types of apps that we might consider to be self-help as well. So how many people here have heard of Do Not Pay? Some people? So you may have seen in the news an individual who developed an app that can help people fight traffic tickets, a bot of some sort. We do see some Canadian versions of that coming up, and I think Do Not Pay has tried to come into Vancouver. I'm not sure if it's there yet. There's also an area of business where AI is used to develop, identify important terms of in contracts. So not necessarily for the average public, but it could be used by people that work in businesses to be able to quickly analyze a contract, find out what's important, find out what's standard. And then answering basic legal questions without needing a lawyer. So something like Blue Jay could be used potentially by accounting firms, HR departments to answer basic questions. Is somebody who's working with us independent contractor or an employee? So those are some of the things that apps can do. So why care about all these apps? I've given you some examples. Why should we care about them? Why might we want to know more? One of the things that we did in our project was try to identify some of the risks and opportunities associated with these apps. Some of them are going to be fairly obvious, I think. Can we use apps to potentially make legal services cheaper? Can we also eliminate psychological barriers? Is it easier for someone to pull something up on their phone or on their computer rather than go into a lawyer's office? Physical barriers, so remote communities, there could be some opportunities there. Using big data, like the example I said, and also can we modernize public education by involving students in these projects? On the risk side, privacy and security risks. Are we potentially perpetuating unequal access to justice? Do people have digital literacy? Can they use these tools? The people that need access to justice the most, are these types of tools actually going to help them? Can they even afford the software? Do they even have Wi-Fi or internet access where they live? In the legal apps world, unauthorized practice of law is a big issue. So really murky about what's legal advice that only lawyers can give, what's legal information. We haven't really got any good answers to that, I think, in the modern age. Reliability of legal information. The apps I showed you are fairly reputable and developed by serious teams. But if you look on the App Store, there's apps that, for example, want to tell police officers, what charges they can lay. Has that app been updated in the last 5 years? That might be a really important question to know the answer to. And then also, skewing the access to justice debate. And by that we mean, if we offload all these solutions into the private sector, is that going to impact our arguments for public funding or the motivation to provide and properly fund the public sector? So right now, what we found in our project is there's virtually no research and no regulation on these issues. And so that's motivated us to try and think about what new projects. We need more research. Who's using these apps and how? Are we actually improving outcomes? We all talk about technology being a great thing, have a lot of potential. What's actually happening? What are the regulatory options? How is it changing the justice system? And, do we need more regulation? I think there's real live questions about whether that's going to be effective or just stifle innovation. One thing that we are interested in is actually developing best practices guidance. And with that, I'll just briefly highlight a current project that also Professor Buclan's working with me on, and also Professor Skaza, who's in the room, that's looking to just look actually at one issue, bite off one small issue of privacy, and think about how can we help developers address privacy issues in the best way possible, provide them with a tool that's going to be useful for them. And then also next month, I'm working on a multi-year project that I'm going to start that's kind of going to try and answer some of the questions I've highlighted here. You know, where are the needs? Where are the gaps? Can we develop even more best practice guidance that moves beyond privacy? And then also that regulatory issue, I'm going to develop a white paper that looks at different regulatory options. So lots of exciting things happening at uOttawa. I'm working with a lot of great students, and as you'll see, a team of a lot of great of our professors as well. And my time's been up about 2 minutes ago, so I better stop. All right, thanks for your time.
It is my great pleasure to co-present with Selena Lucien, although she is really as big a superstar, if not bigger, as Selena Gomez. Selena actually developed her small claim wizard before coming to law school. And so I've enjoyed working with her because we've really merged two different areas of her own development work and some of the research work that I've been doing, and we're now developing things, which is also very, very exciting. So I would like to start with sort of giving you an overview about issues that we're going to be briefly talking about. It is based on our still draft paper, so we're still working and ironing out some of these concepts as well. So my work with one of the colleagues from this very building, Mary Kavanagh, and the School of Information Studies, has been about how people search for legal information. Once you actually understand that you have a legal problem, or even before that, how do you even conceptualize your stories into legal problems and understand that they are legal problems? How do you go about finding information? And we've chosen a very narrow area of law for a particular reason. So we're actually looking at consumer problems. And one of the reasons why I find them incredibly fascinating is that through the information and these studies that we now have from the Canadian Forum for Civil Justice in Toronto, and we used to have it from the Department of Justice as well, the most common legal problem in Canada that people have is actually a consumer problem. So either it's a problem with the widget that you have or a service that you received, and a lot of those problems are actually within the amount which goes to small claims court. So $25,000 in Ontario, which really dovetails nicely with Selena's problem. So consumer problems are very, very prevalent, but when you look at all of the access to justice initiatives, you really won't see anything dealing with consumer problems. We see issues dealing with family law and issues dealing with criminal matters, because those are matters that are palpable and visceral, and they impact people's lives in a really big way. So the public resources, which are finite, are then focused on issues that require a lot of attention. And by doing that, a lot of these other issues that are very common in people's lives, so consumer is one, the second one is debt, which is really all sort of financial services. So those two almost account for 50% of legal problems. We don't really have a lot of access to justice infrastructure or projects working on those issues because, again, they impact people in different ways, right? Or not in that a big way. And the example that I generally use, and that some of you in the room have heard me talk about, is Mary and I did a focus group with low-income people in Ottawa about their problems with their cell phones. So the first question that we asked them is, like, did anybody experience a legal problem? It was a room of 22 people. 6 were supposed to show up, and 22 showed up. And they said, no, we don't have, we've never had a problem. But let me tell you what happened to me. And then let me tell you what happened to me were all actually stories which are legal problems. And the most shocking one for me, and I tend to think that I'm a very open-minded lawyer who understands that law is really not just access to courts, and I was really dumbfounded, was a woman in a wheelchair, and the wheelchair is really important because her cell phone is her lifeline. If she gets stuck between aisles in the supermarket or her transport doesn't come, she relies on her cell phone to actually call for help. And so she said, well, I had this thing, I was watching the Olympics, and I got my cell phone bill, and it was $200. over whatever the regular limit was. And it turned out that basically she went over her data cap and they charged her $200. So for me, that was already a signal. It is actually a legal problem because providers are not allowed to cut you off when you reach, actually they have to cut you off when you reach $50 unless you consent. She really didn't receive a notice. So it is a legal problem, which would have actually been a $50 problem. All of a sudden is a $200 problem. And we said, so what did you do? And she said, well, I couldn't really pay. I'm on fixed income. So I called my provider to cancel everything, and I had everything in a bundle, and they charged me $800 in early cancellation fees. So from $50 to $200 to $1,000, and we said, what did you do? And she said, I couldn't pay and I declared bankruptcy. And my jaw dropped, right? And so those are issues that we really don't look into when we're looking into access to justice because they're sort of too small, right? And so if you look at the monetary values, most of consumer issues are really below $500. That is not something that people are actually going to retain a lawyer for, because retaining a lawyer is usually going to eat up more money than the actual claim. So I want to talk about what we know in this landscape of general legal problems where people go for information, and then we're really going to dovetail into some of the work that Selena and I are doing together. So very few people ever go to see lawyers, 19%. A lot of other interactions are happening with different sources, and you'll see that only 33% of people actually go to the internet to find information. Most interactions are happening actually in the immediate social circle of friends and family. And that is something I want to return back towards the end, because that's really integrating technology and that those social networks and also community networks and hubs like community health centers, libraries, and other places where people go for other things but actually legal information as well, is really the key for using the technology to reach the people it is supposed to reach. And what are some of the barriers to action? So when people have identified that they had a problem, almost 45% is really based on the fact that people didn't know that they had rights, right? And I want to really start with that. And so in dispute resolution literature that some of you know, there is this fundamental sort of concept of naming, blaming, and claiming. That you need to understand that you have experienced a problem, so you have to name it as a problem. But I like to take a step before that and say you really need to know that you have the rights first in order to actually be able to realize that your rights have been infringed so that you can name them, right? So you may have a story, which is, oh, I paid $200 in my overcharge fees, but you don't really know that that has been a legal problem. So you have to name it, that actually it's been recognized as a problem, to attribute it to the third party, that it's not really your fault, that somebody else is to blame, and then claim it, actually take some action on it. And some of the issues that we're finding in particular with consumer problems are that initial point of actually recognizing that there are rights and understanding what kind of actions you're supposed to take are not happening because the information is not really there. And what's really unique about consumer problems is, unlike family matters or criminal, for example, where the default is going to the courts or perhaps doing alternative dispute resolution, in consumer area, there are multiple paths. So you can ask for your credit card chargeback, you can talk to a Better Business Bureau, you can go to small claims courts. There are like a number of different paths that you can take, which makes it harder for people to even navigate and know where they need to go. So there are about 60 different dispute resolution providers for a variety of consumer issues. I'm really good at knowing who most of those are, and I still have trouble actually navigating. And I've been working in this space for the last 20 years. So regular people don't even know where they're supposed to go. Is there an internal ombudsman? Is there an external one? Who do I actually talk to? You know, but presuming they actually understood that their rights have been violated. So we really talk about these issues as little injustices, and Laura Nader has called them little injustices in 1980, and I'm sort of depressed often when I present about these issues because we really haven't moved from any of this since 1980s, where we recognize that these issues are really important, but we haven't really provided solutions. So in consumer issues, most actions are self-help, right? Because of that low monetary value. It is not really financially a smart decision to hire a lawyer, so you really have to fend for yourself. And so we're really getting to this point that, consumers require information in order to understand that they had rights, that those rights have been infringed, and they can act appropriately on them. And so from the work that Mary and I have been doing, we have really found that the access to adequate information is the key, and that access to justice for consumers in most instances is actually access to information. And that's where I'm going to stop and turn to Selena to talk about sort of more fundamental issues about linking apps to access to justice.
Awesome. Thank you. How much time do I have?
You got 11 minutes.
11 minutes, okay. Okay. Voila, okay. So, Carl Polanyi, in his book Great Transformation, argues that the economic activity is embedded in a social and economic context. And he suggests that there's a double movement that's taking place, and a movement this double movement that's characterizing the market economy. The markets change, the markets evolve, they get disrupted through an embedding and a disembedding process. Polanyi's characterization of market transformation appears to accurately describe what's going on in the legal world, or the state of the legal economy, rather. The legal world is undergoing a great transformation with, on the one hand, the forces of economic liberalism seeking to expand. So you see the introduction of new digital technologies as new actors and knowledge forces in the legal market. And on the other hand, there's a call for social protection best practices in order to protect consumers and the public from these market forces. So it's this double movement that's taking place. And the call for social protection is taking place against a backdrop of political reform and normative commitment by the government and law society to address the access to justice crisis, and the fear that these digital technologies are going to take over the work typically conducted by lawyers, and in some cases resulting in unauthorized legal practice and advice. The great transformation within the context of legal technologies is evident through the extensity and the intensity at which the market is hyper involved in the social, the economic, and the legal. And what you see is that it's potentially threatening to displace the lawyers that are being relied upon by consumers as conduits of legal knowledge, information, and processes. And within the context of market efficiency, what we're seeing is that these digital technologies are having a significant impact on the legal market's supply and demand. So the question that emerges from everything that I just set up is, can these digital technologies that are springing into existence, and I'm included in this context as well, are we actually facilitating access to relevant legal information and actually empowering consumers to know about their rights and their own problems? So the reason why this is important is that access to justice is being co-transformed through a computational perspective of law. So it's as I'm building, or other developers are building legal technologies, we're imposing our version, our idea of what access to justice looks like on the public. So in some ways, we're computationalizing access to justice, and that has its own problems and issues. So these digital technologies can equip ordinary citizens to be agents of their own legal needs. They increase the efficiency and reduce the overall cost of legal services. And in some cases, they reduce information asymmetry, right? So no longer do I have to go and rely on a lawyer to provide me information. I can now actually rely on a tool that would simplify the process of accessing legal information. So one of the key limitations that comes out from this process is that there's only so much that legal tech apps can do. And it's limited for highly complex matters. It's impossible to do certain things without a highly trained lawyer. So the scope and the application for these technologies is limited to smaller civil claims. And what is even more interesting is that there's an access to justice crisis. There's an oversupply of lawyers. So according to price theory, what should happen is the price of legal services should go down. And what's actually happening is it's a paradox. It's not going down. In fact, it's actually staying the same and staying more expensive. So what's happening is that these legal apps are kind of sweeping in and meeting that unmet market that is being untapped by lawyers. So the case study, Small Claims Wizard, okay. So I worked on the Small Claims Wizard before I came to law school. And one of the things that kind of started really bothering me was, I'm building this app, working with other really interesting individuals, but am I really making a difference? Am I actually having an impact on the lives of people that I seek to help? On top of the fact that I'm imposing my version of what access to justice looks like on the public, right? They don't really participate in the creation of the app. I'm, again, imposing my version of what access to justice looks like for them. Am I actually empowering consumers to be educated about their rights and be agents to solve their own problems? Or is this just kind of a dream and an idea? So I looked into scholarly literature, and again, this is a brand new field, and there isn't much written about this. So I touched upon these issues. So I went ahead and reached out to 100 individuals when I was working. So this is kind of the interface of the Small Claims Wizard for your reference. Okay. So I reached out to 100 consumers, members of public, and asked them a certain set of questions. So before I get into the results of that, I just want to mention what the Small Claims Wizard actually does. It basically facilitates and simplifies access to the small claims court. It is able to facilitate ready-to-use forms. If you're an individual with accessibility needs and you require the service that's compatible with a special reading, screen reading software, it'll be compatible with that. It provides information in a way that is digestible for consumers to kind of take on their legal issue on their own. So in light of kind of the features of the Small Claims Wizard, I went ahead and started asking questions. So out of 100 people that I interviewed and spoke with, it seemed, I tried to look at people who went to the small claims court before and asked them, if you had this tool and now that you kind of tried it out, do you think this would have been helpful for you and would you use it again? So I overall got very positive feedback on individuals who were really interested in using the Small Claims Wizard again. But it also reinforced a lot of the literature that the Canadian Bar Association has published about the issues, the process being too expensive, too complicated. I kept hearing the report being cited to me. So of those who never went through the small claims court and maybe had a litigious issue, more than 50% felt that they didn't seek legal recourse because, again, they were so intimidated by going to court and starting a claim that they wouldn't really know where to start. And more than 40% would be open to using a tool that would be able to help them and assist them during their legal journey. So I wanted to know what would be some of the hesitations about using this tool. And one of the main ones that came out were privacy concerns. Like, where is all this data going to be stored if I'm using this app? Enforcement mechanism, okay, so now I won my case, but am I actually going to get my money back from the debtor? What if I need to speak to a lawyer? The process can be confusing at times. Some technical issues came up, and so forth. But overall, it was a positive feedback on the app. So it kind of further supports this idea that the trajectory towards using legal technology to assist consumers to be empowered for their own rights is promising. Not fully there, but it is promising. Marina, do you wanted to mention a few things? We have about a
Okay, so very quickly, because I see Suzanne already waving. We're going to talk, so I think we're going to skip and we're actually going to talk about from research to action. So yes, we're writing this paper. Mary Cavanaugh and I are doing a lot of work on our own, on sort of scholarly work. But for us, it's really important to actually use what we learned in our research and turn it into action. So Amy mentioned this past fall, I taught a legal knowledge engineering course where I had 10 law students and one student in library sciences who were building apps. And then I continued to work with Selena, and we're going to continue to work. And we're building 3 different tools right now. One is this interactive checklist. So for a lot of, again, things that I'm talking about, which are about your devices, you will go into the store, and a lot of the problems wouldn't really become legal problems if you knew about your rights ahead of time. So we're working on this clickable interactive checklist before you go to purchase your phone, that you actually know what your rights are, so we prevent problems. Then we're building a tool that's a problem-solving tool. Now I had a problem. Here is my story. How do I actually figure out what rights I have? Where do I go? Where do I complain? And the one that actually I think is one that I'm most excited about is going to be a contract analysis tool where you can actually dump in your cell phone contract and it spits out to you, here are the rights that you have, and here are some of the flags you should actually be careful about. And if you've been watching CBC Marketplace and CBC Go Public, you know that there is this term in all of these contracts that the providers can change the terms at any point, so your price can go up and you don't even know, et cetera. And the key issue actually that came out of our work, both so joint work with Selena and Mary's in mine, was that technology can empower people with information, but technology on its own is really not the only way to go forward. It is a part of a matrix because information needs are highly situational and highly contextual. So even these aggregate information or even situational information through sort of responsive systems requires human mediation. It requires humans to actually get the apps or get the information to people who need them. So part of our work is not just developing apps, but working with various community organizations and train people at the front lines to know that these apps or these systems exist so that they can actually pass the information on. And if you remember at the beginning, I said people often rely on their social networks. And so those social networks are really friends and family, but it's also various community organizations. So we're really excited about using technology and community work and bringing them together. You know, and consumer things are just like one step. There are a bunch of other sources and a bunch of other areas that we are sort of looking to expand over the next decade. And yes, I know, we ran out of time, sorry. You can see we're very excited about that.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jennifer Lopez. No, thank you. I just want to mention that the presentation will be in French, and we are probably the alien team of this panel, as I'm sociologist, and our 2 colleagues, the 3 of us are completely non-legal people. So be nice with us, and I will give the floor to my colleagues to present our project.
Bonjour, mon nom c'est Thérèse Ottawa, je viens de Manoine. Puis chacun notre tour ou bien?
Non, mais vas-y, après ça se présentera. Ça va?
Mais je commence la présentation? OK. Bon, comme vous voyez ici, il y a Wikipédia Atikamekw. Puis je vois rien. OK. Bon, nous sommes situés. Au Québec, la nation Atikamekw occupe la partie centrale de la province. Ses voisins immédiats sont les Wabanaki à l'est, les Algonquins à l'ouest, les Mohawks au sud et les Cris, Naskapi et Inuits au nord. Les jeunes de 0 à 35 ans composent aujourd'hui la majeure partie, 65% de la population atikamekw. Bien que beaucoup moins nombreux, 4% de la population amanoine, les aînés, donc 60 ans et plus, ont droit à un très grand respect des plus jeunes générations. Ce respect des aînés s'observe d'ailleurs chez la plupart des nations autochtones. La population, hommes et femmes, est très bien répartie chez les Atikamekw. Les femmes s'illustrent tout particulièrement dans les secteurs de l'enseignement et de la politique. Oui. La genèse du projet. Ça a commencé en 2013-2014 avec les premiers articles dans le portail écrit. Puis ce portail était dédié aux Premières Nations. Puis il y avait toutes les langues autochtones qu'on pouvait aller mettre dedans. Puis en 2015-2016, le projet s'est arrêté faute de contribution. En mai 2016, il y a eu un reportage radiophonique sur Radio-Canada. Puis en août 2016, il y a eu la reprise du Wikipédia dans le cours d'informatique avec des élèves de secondaire 5. En octobre 2016, la première rencontre avec Wikimedia Canada avec l'Université du Québec de l'Ottawa à Manoine. En novembre 2016, il y avait eu le premier atelier de formation à Manoine. En janvier 2017, il y a eu la formation du comité Wikipédia à Manoine. Et avec la première rencontre en février 2017, la première rencontre avec Wikimedia Canada, l'Institut linguistique atikamekw Siena à la TUC. Ça, c'était pour valider le projet de Wikipédia atikamekw avec le groupe de Wikimedia. En mars 2017, il y a eu une deuxième rencontre avec Wikimedia Canada, l'équipe du Siena et Wimontashi à Joliette, pour la traduction de l'interface de Wikipédia. Le premier atelier en novembre 2000... Ah non, c'est pas ça. Excusez-moi. En avril 2017, la rencontre de travail à Manoine pour l'intégration de Wikipédia en éducation. Puis en mai 2017, il y a une visioconférence pour la traduction de l'interface Wikipédia Atikamekw-Nehorowin. Puis en juillet 2017, l'équipe de Wikimedia Canada était venue pour une sortie en territoire avec l'équipe en juin 2017. Il y a eu aussi une remise de certificats des jeunes, une remise de certificats aux jeunes participants de Manoine dans l'école. Le 21 juin 2017, ça a été le lancement de Wikipédia Atikamekw-Nehorowin. Là, c'était officiel que le Wikipédia sortait de l'incubateur. En août 2017, nous avons participé à Wikimania à Montréal.
You have two pictures of the event, Wikimania. It was the first time Wikimania, I think, had a meeting in Canada, in Quebec especially. So.
L'intérêt du projet, c'est d'initier les membres de la nation Atikamekw à Wikipédia. Créer un projet intergénérationnel, créer une banque d'images provenant de la communauté. Les sources d'information en Atikamekw pour les jeunes et toute la communauté. par la diffusion publique de la langue atikamekw écrite, conservation de la langue et de la culture, la traduction de l'interface en atikamekw suite à l'atelier de traduction qu'il y a eu au Centre d'amitié autochtone de Joliette. C'était un travail collaboratif aussi sur les médias sociaux, les contacts efficaces, conversations, prise de décision. Des outils pour la traduction, Wikitranslate, on a traduit le mot souris parce que les mots qui sont plus technologiques, on n'a pas de traduction pour ça. Il a fallu en inventer. Pas inventer, mais au moins toujours dans le contexte du mot. Comme la souris, on l'appelle l'outil à pression. Puis cliquer aussi, c'est le résultat d'un changement. Il a fallu traduire cette phrase-là pour traduire le mot. Je vais passer l'autre section à madame. Ma tante.
Bonjour, moi je m'appelle Cécile Niquay-Ottawa. Je ne viens pas d'Ottawa, c'est mon nom de femme mariée. Je suis enseignante au secondaire. J'étais déjà à la retraite, puis il y avait besoin de support pour la langue atikamekw. J'ai commencé cette année. Il a fallu que je travaille tout l'été pour qu'on puisse faire des cahiers, des livres de lecture, des cahiers d'exercice pour nos jeunes. Puis c'est à la demande des jeunes que nous avons réinstauré l'enseignement de la langue à l'école secondaire. Ils se sont aperçus qu'ils étaient en train de perdre leur langue. Puis c'est eux autres qui ont demandé à réavoir la langue. Pour l'avenir du projet, nous avons, ça je viens de le dire, les nouveaux cours de langue à l'école secondaire. Nous avons à compléter des textes aussi avec l'aide de notre enseignant en informatique, Luc, à corriger des textes aussi, et à rédiger des mots nouveaux concernant toute la nouveauté qui arrive sur le marché. À réutiliser les mots anciens, perdus ou non utilisés. C'est surtout les mots du territoire. Quand on va dans le bois, sur nos territoires, nos jeunes ne savent plus comment appeler certaines choses dont on utilisait. C'est ça qu'on va rechercher dans la forêt. Les mots qui sont liés au territoire et aux activités traditionnelles. Puis remettre en contexte lors d'ateliers sur le territoire. Moi, quand je suis devant le groupe, j'essaie de les faire réfléchir. Là, je leur demande comment est-ce qu'on appelle ça. Je fais un dessin au tableau, puis je demande comment est-ce qu'on appelle ça. Puis là, je donne une syllabe. Ils essayent de trouver. Là. C'est ma façon de leur faire revenir en mémoire les mots qu'ils ont perdus, qui sont perdus ou bien égarés dans le bois. Puis remettre en contexte, réécrire dans le Wikipédia. On fait des travaux, on sort une activité, puis les jeunes vont essayer de décrire l'activité en question dans leur mot de ce qu'ils savent. Puis s'il manque des informations, je suis là pour les compléter. Puis on veut aussi faire une création d'un dictionnaire avec Wiktionnaire. Wiktionnaire, c'est déjà commencé d'ailleurs. Les nouvelles entrées dans le Wiktionnaire, c'est aussi tout ce dont voyons, tous les documents dont je me suis servi, c'était dans les archives de mon défunt mari, Gentelet. Et on a fait des enregistrements de mots avec lingua libre pour les futures générations, pour qu'ils entendent les sons, les prononciations des mots. Et on a aussi créé des ateliers de Chihuahuamingen Wiki Café à tous les mercredis. Donc maintenant, c'est tous les lundis aux 2 semaines. Ça, c'est ouvert à la communauté. Tous ceux qui veulent venir participer à la création de textes, de contes, de prières en atikamekw, ils sont tous les bienvenus. Et je donne un coup de main à mon collègue Luc Patin dans les cours d'informatique. C'est un outil qui va servir pour les générations futures si advenant que la langue se perde. Mais moi, je travaille beaucoup pour la conservation de la langue et pour la sauver. Là, je t'ai rendu pour la lingua libre. C'est pris? Oui, c'est bien. On l'a vu ça aussi. OK, c'est bien. OK. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Thérèse. Merci, Cécile. C'était pas évident. Je me sens très coupable de les emmener dans mon monde. Surtout que je leur ai vendu la faculté de droit comme la plus grande faculté au Canada. Fait que je leur ai un peu mis de pression. Désolée. Mais voilà, vous l'avez compris, c'est un projet qui a été initié par la communauté. Et si la communauté n'avait pas embarqué dans ce projet-là, certainement que les chercheurs n'auraient pas pu embarquer. Donc c'est une manière aussi, c'était important pour moi de venir présenter, et quand j'en ai parlé à Florian, qui m'a gentiment invité, je trouvais que c'était une très bonne idée de montrer une initiative qui est par et pour les communautés et qui finalement renforce ce que j'ai défini dans le titre, et je vais vous en parler un peu sur une question de justice sociale. Mais avant ça, je voudrais vous parler un peu de ce qu'on fait, comment est-ce qu'on documente, parce que l'initiative a été, je dirais, leadée par les Atikamekw, et elle pourrait certainement aussi intéresser d'autres communautés qui se demandent notamment comment est-ce qu'on peut apprivoiser la technologie. Je vais souvent au Forum permanent sur les questions autochtones à New York, et on entend parler à travers le monde, les communautés autochtones, de comment est-ce qu'on peut protéger nos langues et comment est-ce que la technologie peut protéger nos langues. Comment est-ce que l'univers numérique dans lequel nous sommes actuellement pourrait nous aider à renforcer nos capacités à s'autodéterminer et aussi à maîtriser un peu plus la technologie. L'environnement ouvert est notamment un des enjeux qui est le plus problématique. Donc, ce qu'on a décidé de faire encore là avec la communauté et avec le Conseil de la Nation Atikamekw, qui est l'entité politique avec laquelle nous travaillons aussi, c'est notamment, bien sûr, de mettre les outils à disposition de tous. Donc, on utilise la plateforme Wikipédia, et notamment, on a le support de la fondation Wikimedia, puisque c'est un projet de recherche qui a été financé par la fondation Wikimedia. Donc, on a la page. On utilise beaucoup Facebook, notamment pour les contributeurs et aussi pour dialoguer avec... moi, je suis à Gatineau, Nathalie est à Montréal, Thérèse, Cécile sont à Manawan, il y a aussi du monde à Joliette, à Wemontachi. Donc, les réseaux sociaux sont au cœur de notre stratégie de communication pour cette page-là. Notamment quand il y a des wiki-cafés aussi, ça circule sur Facebook, si vous voulez, l'information circule. Ce qu'on a fait aussi, c'est qu'on a développé une boîte à outils de comment mettre en place cette page Wikipédia. Cette boîte à outils-là est bien sûr sur le site de la Wikipédia en Atikamekw. Vous avez vu, même le nom Wikimedia a été traduit, Wikipédia. La boîte à outils va être traduite en anglais et en espagnol parce que l'objectif, c'est d'aller rejoindre le plus d'organisations et de communautés autochtones à travers le monde. Donc, la prochaine étape, c'est bien sûr de traduire ça. Il y a un article scientifique qui s'en vient, qui va être écrit en collaboration avec justement le coordonnateur des affaires culturelles du CNA, Christian Coucou, et on va publier ça dans un article, c'est le Journal of Peer Production. L'autre enjeu sur lequel on est en négociation avec le CNA, c'est d'aller présenter l'initiative de la Wikipédia au forum permanent sur les enjeux autochtones, sur les questions autochtones, pardon, parce qu'on pense que c'est vraiment quelque chose qui peut intéresser à plus long terme. Encore là, la technologie, l'environnement numérique est une des préoccupations numéro 1 de beaucoup de peuples autochtones. Donc ça, c'est voilà pour le volet documentation. Donc, pourquoi est-ce qu'on considère que la technologie fait partie de la justice sociale? Okay? Déjà, justice sociale, je voulais un peu comme on dit en bon français, framer ça. Okay? C'est-à-dire que déjà, la base du concept de justice sociale, c'est le concept d'autodétermination. C'est vraiment quelque chose qui est fondamental. Autre concept fondamental aussi, c'est la décolonisation. Décolonisation en termes de reprendre le pouvoir gérer ses propres affaires, des relations de pouvoir qui soient équilibrées. Ça vaut autant pour les décideurs que les communautés et les chercheurs. Je travaille beaucoup sur la question, Suzanne l'a dit, de la mobilisation des connaissances, mais aussi surtout des relations éthiques et respectueuses entre la communauté des chercheurs et les universitaires, les chercheurs. Donc ça, c'est une des choses qui est importante. La justice sociale aussi, c'est en termes de réaffirmation, de soutien de la réaffirmation identitaire et politique, bien sûr, respect des processus d'autodéfinition identitaire, à savoir qui va se définir comme Atikamekw. Et c'est ça, par exemple, que fait notamment la Wikipédia, c'est-à-dire qu'on ne détermine pas a priori qui peut ou qui ne peut pas, c'est à la communauté qui décide et qui prend les moyens de décider qui peut contribuer de manière efficace, etc. Ce n'est pas ni à Wikipédia ni aux chercheurs qui sont impliqués dans ce processus-là. Respect des caractéristiques culturelles, et j'ai mis exprès une photo qu'un des contributeurs a fait, parce que vous avez dû voir quand Thérèse et Cécile en ont parlé, on a fait un concours photo avec les jeunes de la communauté pour pouvoir mettre sur la Wikipédia des images qui soient respectueuses de la culture atikamekw, parce que quand le projet a démarré, une des choses qu'on a constatées, c'est que les seules images de Manawan qu'il y avait, c'était des images qui dataient des années 50 et 60, et c'était probablement la femme d'un contracteur minier, ou je ne me rappelle plus, Luc, exactement ce que c'était, mais c'était des images qui n'étaient pas prises par les gens de la communauté et qui non seulement dataient, mais qui n'étaient pas respectueuses. Donc, c'était une des choses aussi, et ce à quoi sert la technologie, c'est à renforcer cette représentation de l'identité. Donc il y a ça. Et je dirais, l'autre chose, pourquoi la technologie peut être un outil de justice sociale, c'est la relativité, neutralité technologique et axiologique. Et j'insiste sur la relative neutralité parce que ces temps-ci, je suis en train de travailler avec d'ailleurs pas mal de vos collègues sur des questions d'intelligence artificielle, et j'ai découvert une fantastique anthropologue qui analyse l'intelligence artificielle et les structures sous-jacentes de l'intelligence artificielle, comme quoi l'intelligence artificielle est principalement occidentale, masculine et avec une ascendance chrétienne. Donc là, je suis en train de pousser ça pour voir un peu comment est-ce que finalement la technologie que j'ai longtemps pensée neutre était peut-être un peu orientée. Donc c'est ce qu'on va certainement pousser dans l'article qu'on va faire avec Christian Coucou et Nathalie Casmajor. Donc, aussi, pourquoi des principes de justice sociale? Parce que ce qui est intéressant dans la Wikipédia, c'est que le point de départ, l'essence même, c'est l'oralité. Et l'oralité, si vous voulez, la tradition orale est le principe légitime par lequel on partage des connaissances. Et c'est ça aussi que permet de faire la Wikipédia. Je mettrai un bémol après, mais c'est le premier principe. Que finalement, la tradition orale atikamekw est la source de référence de la Wikipédia. Cécile l'a dit, elles utilisent par exemple beaucoup les archives de Ottawa, qui était vraiment un gardien de la langue, un gardien de beaucoup de la tradition. Donc on prend les archives de Ottawa et on essaye de créer des articles qui reflètent cette tradition-là. Donc vraiment le cadre de référence. C'est aussi un cadre analytique atikamekw des données. Ça veut dire que le système de classification au sein de la Wikipédia part des catégories de pensée et des catégories classificatoires des Atikamekw. Donc ça aussi, si vous voulez, en termes de comment est-ce qu'on s'approprie un cadre de pensée, c'est vraiment un outil qui est très intéressant. Et pour vous dire, je n'ai pas d'action dans Wikipédia, je ne suis pas membre du conseil d'administration de Wikipédia, ok? Je voulais juste vous mettre ça clair, je ne suis pas là pour vous vendre Wikimedia ou quoi que ce soit. Ce que ça permet aussi, c'est une décolonisation des modes d'expression et en termes de contrôle des données. Et finalement, ça permet, et je trouve que c'est assez intéressant, parce que si vous voulez, on redéploie une langue qui a souvent été présentée comme une langue, premièrement, elle a été niée dans son oralité, on lui a imposé, je dirais, la forme écrite. Ensuite, c'était des langues de nations qui ont été déniées dans leur identité. Donc finalement, on redéploie une langue qu'on a peut-être dit usuette et qui est en déclin dans un environnement numérique, un environnement qui est en plein essor. Donc c'est vraiment quelque chose qui est intéressant. Aussi, ce qui est intéressant avec le principe de l'oralité, et ce pourquoi je vous dis que je pense que c'est un outil de justice sociale, c'est qu'il y a une nouvelle génération de locuteurs, les jeunes locuteurs qui se réapproprient la langue. Et le dernier enjeu, je dirais, c'est que ça emmène des nouveaux enjeux syntaxiques, parce que ça reste une langue qui était bien sûr orale, qu'on redéploie dans un environnement numérique, mais tout de même sous une forme écrite. Okay? Ce qui veut dire qu'il y a quand même des enjeux. Je vais vous le faire, je vais vous donner un exemple, et Cécile peut-être pourra vous en parler, c'est que les jeunes écrivent l'Atikamekw comme des francophones. Okay? Donc, même s'ils ne traduisent pas, ils ne passent pas du français à l'Atikamekw quand ils écrivent dans la Wikipédia, ils ont quand même une structure de pensée qui est une structure de francophone et une structure d'écriture, si vous voulez, qui ne respecte pas toujours les critères d'oralité. Et ce que Cécile disait quand on en discutait hier, c'est qu'elle disent il manque des syllabes. Il y a des syllabes qu'ils écrivent qu'on ne met pas alors qu'on peut les dire à l'écrit, ou je ne sais plus si c'est l'inverse. Mais donc, vous voyez, ça change quand même. Okay? Il y a quand même un enjeu là en termes de langue écrite, une langue qui était exclusivement orale, qui passe au niveau de l'écrit, même si elle est déployée dans un environnement numérique, il y a tout de même des enjeux. Donc ça, c'est quelque chose certainement qu'il va falloir que l'on continue à pousser, ces nouveaux enjeux syntaxiques. Ce n'est pas forcément négatif, ce n'est pas forcément positif à date. Au moins, ce sont des enjeux et on les découvre à travers ce projet-là. Autre élément de justice sociale, c'est finalement la notion de contrôle, et c'est extrêmement fondamental dans un contexte de réappropriation identitaire, de décolonisation et d'autodétermination, parce que ça doit être la finalité ultime, l'autonomie. Et c'est ce que propose vraiment la plateforme, et notamment avec la Wikipédia, c'est-à-dire qu'on peut complètement maîtriser. On maîtrise qui est contributeur, on maîtrise la reproduction de son identité, on maîtrise ce qui est produit, on maîtrise l'image de ce qui est produit. Donc c'est quelque chose qui est intéressant, contrôle des informations partagées. Et l'autre chose, et c'est pour laquelle notamment je suis personnellement convaincue qu'il faut aller de l'avant à diffuser ce projet-là, c'est que, si vous voulez, ça permet une appropriation technologique. Et ça reste encore, l'univers technologique, l'univers numérique reste encore quelque chose qui est pas tabou, mais excessivement inconnu, d'un grand potentiel. Donc il y a énormément d'attentes, peut-être trop d'attentes par rapport à ce que le numérique peut faire. Ce que peut faire l'environnement ouvert aussi, parce qu'il y a un certain nombre on ne veut pas, par exemple, partager des secrets, on ne veut pas partager, où il y a eu beaucoup de spoliation, notamment au niveau des secrets pharmaceutiques, au niveau d'un certain nombre de pratiques. Donc on a une rétention d'informations, mais en même temps on voit la potentialité de cet outil numérique-là, notamment avec Wikipédia. Donc ça crée peut-être des attentes, et il faut documenter ces attentes-là. À partir du moment où on sait ce qu'on est capable de faire et ce qu'on est capable de moins faire, on est capable de prendre une décision en connaissance de cause. Donc voilà, ça permet aussi, c'est une diffusion sécurisée et normalisée des données, puisque, je vais vous montrer, au début de la Wikipédia, il y a un bandeau qui notamment donne les limitations que l'on doit respecter, et un certain nombre de critères qui doivent être respectés quand on utilise la Wikipédia. Donc voilà. Au niveau de l'identité, je dirais c'est le troisième. Donc il y avait oralité, contrôle, identité en termes de justice sociale. Identité parce qu'il faut absolument inclure les composantes politiques, ce projet-là et le développement de la Wikipédia a eu l'aval du CNA, a eu l'aval du conseil de bande. On a signé, bien entendu, les chercheurs ont signé un protocole d'entente avec le CNA et avec la communauté. Aussi les entités éducatives, c'est un projet qui est déployé au sein de l'école secondaire au tapis et finalement social parce que ça dépasse les enjeux simples de l'école. Les gardiens de la langue sont excessivement impliqués dans ce projet-là. Ils sont consultés régulièrement. On l'a vu, notamment la traduction de l'interface. Les gardiens de la langue ont été impliqués. Sur les questions de gestion de l'identité, de contrôle de l'identité, ça, je vous en ai déjà parlé, sur aussi propulser la langue dans un univers numérique, une langue qui a longtemps été décriée et qui a longtemps été ignorée. Donc c'est quelque chose qui peut être excessivement valorisant, notamment pour les jeunes locuteurs et pour les jeunes tout simples, qui, on le sait, dans les communautés, il y a un besoin de retrouver une fierté d'être qui on est et d'utiliser une langue aussi que ses parents, grands-parents et arrière-grands-parents ont utilisé. Donc, voilà. Donc, je vous remercie beaucoup.
C'est parfait. Donc, on avait 15 minutes. We had 15 minutes, but we actually now have 19 minutes for questions. So,
You're so efficient.
yeah, I know. Only here. So I'd like to open up for questions. Is there...
I'm not going to monopolize every panel and ask the first question. So I actually have the question for
Marina, would you mind speaking into the mic?
for the three of you, and my apologies, I can't actually express it in French.
I will translate.
How did the community decide to embark on this project? And do you have any suggestions for other communities who would like to do the same? What are the lessons learned, and how can we do this better for other communities?
Comment est-ce que la communauté a décidé d'embarquer dans ce projet? Et est-ce que vous auriez un conseil qui voudrait faire ça en s'allant vers ce genre de projet?
Un, deux. Si j'ai bien compris la question, il veut savoir comment est-ce que la communauté a embarqué dans le projet. Okay.
Des conseils, si d'autres communautés veulent faire pareil.
OK. Comme disait Karine tantôt, ils ont construit une boîte à outils pour se servir de ça, si jamais il y a d'autres communautés qui veulent embarquer. Puis Manoine a décidé d'embarquer là parce que, comme Cécile disait tantôt, que c'est important que les jeunes conservent la langue atikamekw. Puis aussi, l'éducation nous permettait de se servir de cette plateforme pour la conservation. Puis, comment vous avez décidé d'embarquer dans le projet?
Ça marche.
Oui. Vous m'entendez? On a décidé d'embarquer parce que suite au cri d'alarme des jeunes qui s'apercevaient qu'ils étaient en train de perdre la langue, même nos dirigeants aussi, ils s'apercevaient que la langue était en déclin. C'est pour ça qu'ils ont tout de suite adhéré à la proposition de Wikipédia, qu'on puisse travailler avec cet outil pour bien conserver la langue. C'est comme ça que le projet a bien démarré, là, pour qu'on puisse maintenir notre langue, notre belle langue. Oui, oui.
If I may, I just want to add that, in fact, the project was started before the team of Wikimedia was involved, and it was because of the initiative of Luc Patin. He's a teacher at the secondary school, and you initiated a project, and we saw, in fact, I was working with Natalie at that time, and we saw a video on Facebook, I think, about Radio Canada, who was, reporting the project. So we say maybe we can do some work with them and to, work further with them. So.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, it was the high school students themselves that brought it to the attention of their community, of their elders, and that they were living a crisis in the loss of their language. And so I find that very compelling that it came from the students themselves. Another question? Une autre question? Oui.
Blog at uOttawa. My question is that apps, legal and non-legal, create solutions that are both enterprise and solve personal problems as well. And we've seen that with legal apps, a lot of the enterprise solutions involve like creating AI lawyers or helping with efficiencies regarding e-discovery. With non-legal apps that remain widely accessible, they primarily rely on the data economy to be able to exercise or like drive their business models because they collect data and then use ad revenues to be able to sustain themselves. Given the unique relationship that exists when you're acquiring legal services, that sort of precludes collection of data in the same manner. Do you think that there's sufficient incentives present for legal apps to be able to create the same quality of applications that are for access to justice purposes and not just be catering to enterprise solutions such as analytics?
Is that question for Selena and for Amy? Or, okay, do you want to start, Amy? Yeah.
Sure. It's on? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very insightful question. There's huge, one thing that's interesting in this field is we are seeing a lot of private sector solutions and interest in access to justice. But if you're going to try and develop something that is going to address those key crisis points, it's very difficult to monetize. And I think that's your point. I mean, most legal apps don't purport to create a solicitor-client relationship, so that information is not necessarily privileged. But if it's commercial, there's going to be federal regulations that apply and concerns about how you're using that data. So it's great that we're seeing public sector actors coming in, but it would also be interesting to see how those public sector actors can support private development. We're seeing a lot of interest, for example, by the Ministry of Attorney General by funding various AI competitions and trying to invest in that. So I think that's an interesting stream. But for sustainability, like I was talking about how we see these 60 apps out there. When I was preparing this presentation, I was trying to update it from 6 months ago, and a lot of the examples are no longer available, let alone those ones that are still out there that aren't being updated. And that's a huge, kind of the graveyard of apps is a huge type of problem. So I think it's a real issue if you talk to developers in this area, the issue of being able to be sustainable, not necessarily getting a profit, but even developing anything that can be commercially run, because it can be very expensive if you need a lot of server space to run these apps. So I think it's a real issue, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes. And you're right, the money's there. I mean, people need e-discovery solutions, conflict management software. Big firms spend millions of dollars a year on that, but that's not really, the public-oriented types of solutions. So, I mean, Selena will be able to talk about it from kind of her perspective as well, but hopefully that addressed your question.
Okay. Sorry. I think you make a really good point, and it's something that I had to deal with as I was on my app building journey. I think that there's still ways to grease the wheels of capitalism, even if the consumer isn't a big firm, it's the public. I think a lot of the data that could be scraped and used can actually inform policymakers how to improve access to justice. When I was building the app, I was at the Attorney General's office more than I'd like to be, basically asking for data. Like, how many people are frequent flyers at the small claims court? How many people keep coming back? What's their experience like? And they were not collecting information on this. So, there's ways to monetize it perhaps to keep it financially sustaining the application, but I think that information can really inform policymakers how to improve people's experience with the legal system and even collect information that can further be used to create I don't know, more innovative, I don't want to use that word, but like more interesting and efficient and productive and helpful ways in order to service the public. And the data can be collected in various different ways. It could be, again, their satisfactions as they go along on their legal, I guess, journey, filing a claim to the point of enforcing a claim. There's ways to collect that information. And even the issues are like, who are you going to be selling this information to as well? So third parties who can then use it, and you can kind of make money that way. But yeah, I think you do bring up a really good point. And yet to be seen, I guess.
Okay, I'm not going to talk about greasing the wheels of capitalism, but I'm just going to put it out there that the legal information does not, and legal problems do not exist in a vacuum. It's an intricate ecosystem of many players, from the regulators and the government and lawyers and everybody else in between. And I think it's our collective responsibility to find ways to make law more approachable to people. So while there are ways to make money, I also think government and other agents should really take into consideration. So first, and we've talked about this morning, it's like, make the data available. Give us open data, what's happening in the small claims courts, and we can use it not just to create apps, but actually identify what are problems and signal regulatory reform. So I think everybody needs to step up. It's really great that we're helping law firms serve the clients who can pay, but we really need to help people who need access to justice.
Autre question? Merci, miigwech. Thank you very much, everyone.